The internet is full with horror stories, fictitious as well as real-life events that happen to unsuspecting victims, from ghosts lingering in your home to another version of yourself existing in a mirror realm, or even a creepy cursed road. There are endless stories keep you up tonight, so I headed over to Reddit to find some of the scariest. So today on Nay's Top 5 I'm going to be counting down our list of the top 5 scary stories you won't believe. Before we begin though, be sure to stick around until the end of the video where I'll be responding to some of your comments, and with that, let's jump in. Number 5. They talk about the time they encountered something truly bizarre in that home. I quote, "When I was a teenager I used to babysit my cousin Alyssa. She was little, maybe almost 2, maybe a little older, old enough to say sentences. I'm giving her a bath before bed when she looks out into the hallway and gets a terrified look on her face and starts crying. At this moment my auntie's Pomeranian starts going nuts as well. Barking, growling dog in the hallway. The atmosphere in the room became uncomfortable and I started getting scared. I took her downstairs from 3rd floor in the townhouse to try and calm her down, asked her what was wrong, and she said something along the lines of the man with the black eyes was there, and I continued to pry. She looked up at the 2nd floor stairs, rise getting big, and looked to me, bringing her finger up to her mouth and saying she was shaking her head. No, no, thank you. I hate every single part of this. If this happened to me, I'd be out there in a second. She can find our own babysitter. She's old enough to talk, she's old enough to look after herself." Coming in at number 4 we have unwanted teenagers posted to Reddit by user Vanilla Gorilla. They tell us an awful time they spent in a potentially haunted home. Quote, "My daughter was 4 years old when we lived in our last home. I was a single mom at the time. So it was just she and I alone, and the hope was got an uncomfortable feeling in her room, particularly in the closet area, but never thought much of it. Until one evening I had to put her to bed, and as I was doing chores I walked by her room and heard her whispering. I listened for a bit thinking she was talking to herself, but it was definitely a two-way conversation with her saying, 'Aha, okay,' and stuff like that. I walked in and asked her who she was talking to. She smiled uncomfortably and said, 'No one.' I took her out into the hall and she wouldn't say anything, but I could tell she was afraid. Finally we went outside of the house. She said there was a man in her room who didn't want us in the house, and he had told her this and to tell her mom to leave, move out a month later. She has not since ever had an episode like this. Honestly, this reminds me of something straight out the Amityville Horror, The Others, or even The Conjuring." To the old man in his chat. What happened to the Amityville house? In December 1975, George and Kathy Lutz and their 3 children moved into the house. After 28 days, the Lutzes left the house, claiming to have been terrorized by paranormal phenomena while living there. If a spirit wants you out the house, I highly suggest you just get out of the house while you can. Number 3. Don't talk with the dead. Come in. They discuss the time they saw something very peculiar in the mirror. I quote, "Late at night, I usually go to the bathroom multiple times, but the past 4 days every time I go to leave, I can see myself standing in the mirror from the corner of my eye. It is like other means watching me leave the bathroom. It terrifies me to the point where I almost run out without looking directly at the mirror. I never told my husband about it because I didn't want to acknowledge it out loud. Earlier today, I took a nap in our bed while he sat in the chair next to it watching TV. When I woke up he told me that he had seen me sit up and crawl backward to the edge of the bed and stand in front of our bedroom door from the corner of his eye. He thought it was weird that I got up like that because I'm in my last month of my pregnancy and I can't really move so good without hurting, so he tried talking to me. What I didn't answer, he looked at the door to find me not there and still sleeping in bed. I got really creeped out and I finally told him about what I had been seeing in the bathroom. He thought was creepy as well, but didn't really want to talk about it anymore because he thinks it will give whatever it is power or energy. I've no idea what it was. If I were them I would leave that house and never look back, or she's having a demon baby that as well." Number 2. When I was 15 I traveled to Europe with my family. We stayed in Germany in a small inn for a few nights. My parents had a double bed on the 2nd floor, my sisters had the double bedroom next to theirs, and I was lucky enough to have a single room all to myself at the far end of the hall. When we went to check into our rooms, as soon as I entered the hallway our rooms were in, I remember almost feeling as though I walked into a wall of bad energy. I just felt so unnerved and uneasy in that hallway, but I passed it off as an overactive imagination. I slept the first night without any issues other than waking up a few times. The next morning at breakfast one of my sisters mentioned feeling really uncomfortable in the hallway, almost as if the air was crushing her. It unnerved me even more than I wasn't the only one who felt weirded out. Plus she was an adult at the time, so it further cemented in my head. The wing of the hotel was a lot later that night. I'm sleeping peacefully when at about 2 a.m. I'm woken by something ripping the covers off of me and being jerked about 2 feet towards the end of my bed by my ankle. At first I thought someone had broken into my room, because when I turned towards what grabbed me, a huge looming black shape was visible in the darkness, like a man was in my room. I frantically flipped the lights on, only to have there be nothing there. The window was locked from the inside. There was no one in the closet of the bathroom, and my room was also still locked from the inside. I stayed up the rest of the night scared, because it goes on to say that the next morning she tells her sister about what happened. But what she doesn't expect is that her sister also saw the same silhouetted figure standing in the corner of the room. Absolutely terrifying. Thank you. Number 1. We have Purgatory Road, posted to Reddit by an unknown user. They tell us the time they took a road trip from New York City to Rhode Island back in August of 2018. Unquote. None of us had been to Rhode Island before. We were excited about the drive, especially because we had rented a Mustang convertible for it. We left a little later than expected. It was about 10:30 p.m. and since it was a busy Friday night, we decided to punch our destination into the Waste Traffic app to beat the traffic. Love the Waze promo, other respect. Anyway, they continue by saying eventually we started losing steam, so my friend in the backseat fell asleep, but I just kept driving along quietly. When my friend in the passenger seat told me to exit the freeway to take a side road, at first driving on the unlit winding back roads was relaxing, but then the wind picked up and it got increasingly foggy and misty. I wasn't too much scared. I thought about pulling over to put the top up, but decided against it since no cars in sight. Heavy rain was projected for the entire weekend. So I wanted to get the most out of the convertible. So I kept going along as normal, if not a little too fast to get back to the main roads as quickly as possible, when something just shifted. I don't know how to explain it other than an unsettling exposed feeling. I remember pulling my sweater up my legs to cover up, then my friend up front told me to look at the street sign in the distance. It read Purgatory. Seconds later we went around a bend where large red cross was installed. Then around the next bend, a big truck came hurtling down the one-lane road aimed straight at us. They swept to the side, narrowly avoiding getting crushed by the truck. It all felt disturbed and unsettled about what happens. However, these decided to look up the road, which was revealed to be situated next to an old graveyard. They also discovered that 2 teen girls had died that in August of 2011, in an accident on their way to visit the grave of Rhode Island's infamous vampire Mercy Brown, who died in 1892. Apparently, they decided to go down the dark windy road because they thought it looked haunted. Turns out it may very well be. Well, there we have it. Do you guys agree with that list? Were there any scary stories that we missed? What's the scariest thing that's ever happened to you? Be sure to give this video a big thumbs up, subscribe and turn on notifications so you never miss another scary bit. And until next time, I'll see you later.